Thank you. So, so we can start, Arno. So, we got it today. Tell your name. What's your name?
My name is Amandita.
And tell where you come from. How long you been in Australia? Tell.
2 year. Australia is coming 2 year.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay. How about the next one?
Hi sir, how are you? My name is Subhastan Adhikari. I have been here for 3 years and I'm doing Kupari now advanced diploma.
Where do you come from?
I'm from Nepal.
Nepal.
And our third student have some impaired and speech impairment. So she should be able to barely she can speak, but okay. Speak.
My name is Namit Kaur from Tarnet and Moma.
Okay. So these are the three students. Other student may join later on. So your all our conversation is recording now. So please,
Okay.
go ahead, sir. Yeah.
A little bit hard to understand people when they're wearing face masks.
Yeah. Okay. So then I will. So next time we can ask them to remove it, and we can go ahead with that one. Okay.
Okay, well, I'll start up my presentation for you now. The first thing I would like to say is you are very lucky people because you have excellent tuition facilities made available to you in our country here in Australia. And fortunately, in your case, you also have people like Narendra who also shares a little bit of your background that will relate to you in every way. So very good and very lucky are you. In my case, my history, which I won't bore you with for too long, but just in a few words, I'm a university trained teacher and I worked in the education department for 8 years in high school. I was also a classically trained musician and I participated in many different kind of concerts, musical activities, ABC recordings, and all sorts of things in the music world, including playing guitar in rock and roll bands in my youth in the 60s and 70s. I also became trained as a chef. I got married 3 times, believe it or not. My first 2 marriages failed, mainly, I believe, because my partners did not have any understanding of hospitality. So that's something to be careful of as you make your way through your life. My current wife, who is the best of all, in my opinion, is also from another country. She comes from Indonesia, and she is also a chef working in the hospitality industry. So naturally, she understands the workings and the world of hospitality very well. I have 4 children who range in age from the youngest, who is 8, and the oldest of my children is 37. My God. Anyway, I don't want to think about that too much. As a chef, I began in the Barossa Valley in South Australia, where I trained with my father in our family-owned restaurant business, which still operates today, but not with our family. My father has passed away and I am no longer associated with that place. I did a few...
In Barossa, did you had a lot of red wine?
Lots of wine, red and white.
Yeah, Barossa is very famous for the red wine, and we always, whenever we buy the wine, we look for the Barossa Valley in South Australia.
Yeah, Barossa Valley is the best.
Yeah, yeah. We got a very good like a climate condition.
Exactly.
So that's a good wine.
Yeah.
So please go ahead. Okay, next. Yeah.
When I went to Perth, I worked a long time in the area called Fremantle, which is a port city, and it's the centre of the West Australian European cuisine, with a very large Italian population living in that area, and many people call that Little Italy. Anyway, I worked in pizza places, I worked in Italian restaurant, I worked in Greek restaurant, all sorts of different experiences there. While I was in Western Australia, I also started to work in far-flung regional areas. For example, in Broome and further in Karratha, and right up north, I ran into a little gentleman called Narendra, who was the head chef in a very remote resort, which is becoming quite famous. And I worked with him for a little while. I was just a relieving chef there, and he was the boss. After that, I ended up working at El Questro station, which is close with Narendra's base of... Narendra's station was called Home Valley Station, and it was a competitor with El Questro. El Questro is the last of, or the first and the last of the really remote adventures for people seeking that kind of experiences in Australia. Some of my career highlights, I became executive chef with Mercure Hotels. I was head chef everywhere I went, especially the Gloucester Park Trotting Club in Perth, which was an $8 million business. I've owned 5 different restaurants. I've leased a couple of restaurants as well, in particular, most recently, the Merimbula Golf Club, which was a $2 million turnover business. And I ran a chef agency for a couple of years through Perth, which was also a $2 million business. When you get into the hospitality industry, you will realise that not every hospitality venue is a large turnover establishment, and they come in all shapes and sizes. So when I talk about a place being a $2 million business, I'm talking about a fairly substantial enterprise. The last one I had in Merimbula at the golf club, we hired 35 staff, which included 10 kitchen staff, almost all chef, and 25 front of house staff, waiters and cashiers, and a couple of kitchen hands and things like that. Now, I think that's enough about me, and the most important people here today actually are you.
Thank you. So we are very glad, we are very lucky to have you. And so what you said so far, so it is a really inspiring. You coming in the hospitality industry, started working in the pizza, and you became an executive chef, and you had a high turnover, and your revenue volume was so high. So it is really great to hear from you. So I like to ask a few questions, and Suresh will ask a question. Please go ahead. So you have a question, paper?
Hi, sir. Thank you for giving your valuable time for us. My name is Subhash Chandra Adhikari, and my question is, when you recruit the hospitality personnel, what quality, knowledge, and skills you look for in the person, and how can I improve myself to be selected for the job? Thank you.
Okay, so you are asking what skill set and personality, attitude, and so forth we are looking for?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. In certain respects, that depends a little bit on what kind of work you're trying to achieve. If you're looking for work as a chef, or you're looking for work as a front of house person, or maybe as a manager, or some related field. But in general terms, I think the first thing I can draw your attention to is your personal attitude. That is the most critical factor of all things. If you can manage to develop an aura of good attitude, whatever that means, a bit hard to put it into words, but I think it means that you are enthusiastic, you are willing to learn, and that you are a little bit intelligent would help. If you can discuss your interest area with the person interviewing you and show them that you have some basic knowledge to begin with, these will all be very good things. I can talk about being hardworking and energetic, but everybody pretends to be hardworking and energetic when they're at the interview. The proof of the pudding is always when you start the job. And can you produce the hard work and the energy and the skills as you go on? But the first problem, of course, is to get through the door. Everybody wants to have a first-class resume. We know about that. I'll give you a little tip with resume. I think what I've found in my life is that everybody presents with a stunning resume and they sound like they're absolutely wonderful and perfect for the job. And you interview them and they look at you with bright eyes, and they obviously had plenty of sleep the night before. So they appear to have a good attitude and they appear to be alert and awake and so on. So then that's when I say it comes down to the proof of the pudding. You give this guy a job and he starts with you. What is the proof of the pudding? How does it taste? When you ask this person to do something, what is the result? Can they actually do it? Do they know what you're talking about, or do they fail? Most of my experiences with chefs, and I can tell you that I have had to teach chefs how to make jelly, how to whip cream, how to make a hamburger, and such simple things like that. So these people present themselves as a chef, and in the interview, when you ask them, can you do all these things? They say, yes, yes, fine. Yes, sir, no, sir. They say all the right things. But when you start them, you might get a different picture. Or, I'm only looking on one side of the story at the moment, you may take a look on the other side, they may be fantastic. And if they are, perfect. But I'll give you a couple of little examples. One American chef I had a standard reply to many of the things I asked him to do. For example, I would ask him, can you please make me a batch of whipped cream? And his reply was, it's been a long while. Can you just show me how to do it, please?
That's a clever answer.
Yes. So translating his answer, this means, can you please show me, because I have no idea what to do. And that kind of discussion was had many times with this particular person. And he presented himself as a trained chef from America, from one of the culinary academies in America. And one day I had to sit him down and talk to him to really press him to find out what his training experiences actually were. And on close examination, I discovered that he was completely untrained as a chef. Well, he spent 1 year in chef school, and that was it. So effectively, that meant he was like a first-year apprentice in our language, and that was the end of that story. His cooking experiences ranged no further than that, but he called himself a chef. I had another guy who couldn't peel potatoes. I had another guy who couldn't run the grill. What about the lady we had who couldn't make a fruit salad? What about the Indonesian chef I had who couldn't cook rice?
Oh, so you had a very tough time in the industry. Incompetent skill, like it doesn't have a skill in the kitchen skill. And so it is very hard to run the whole operation, isn't it?
Well, I'm picking the bad examples for to make the point, but lots of them are great. But I had one chef who showed up for work and didn't have any chef clothes.
Oh my God.
So I had to take him out and buy them for him.
Okay.
I had a Chinese chef who refused to pay his tax.
Okay.
And when his payroll payslip came at the end of the week, he came to me and said, "What's this $200 in tax?" "I don't want to pay tax." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but in this country, everybody has to pay tax." "No, not me. I never pay tax in this country."
All right, okay.
So what am I supposed to say? You work for some very funny places, I think. Anyway, that's a long way of answering your question.
No, that's good. Good to know all the things. We are really learn few new things and what your expectations are in the industry. So it is good to hear from you, sir. It is really good. So
I would like to tell you just a few thoughts I have in general about the hospitality industry.
yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
You guys are all facing very turbulent times in hospitality. Things are changing very quickly. Many of the old models of business are no longer relevant. In cooking, the skills that are needed are no longer the same as they used to be. In the old days when I started, and probably Narendra will attest to this as well, we had to make everything ourselves. Nowadays, many businesses buy almost everything in and they just assemble the product and heat it up and give to the customer. Why do they do that? They do this because it's very difficult for a lot of business to afford to pay the chefs sufficient time to produce the products that they can buy commercially nowadays.
To save the labor cost, isn't it? And
It's a constant balancing act between the cost of producing and the cost of purchasing. Which is the most effective? How do we make the most money? Do we buy, for instance, almost everywhere will buy their pastry products in these days. So cakes and things like that, they will buy them in. The cost of making those cakes is far greater than the cost of buying them in. And you also have to factor in things such as wastage, consistency, taste, texture, and so forth. With a commercial product, you can guarantee that all those things will be there. If you make a cake, you know yourself, if you make a cake at home, today it might be good, tomorrow you might forget about it and it might be burnt, or it might be just a little bit overcooked, or maybe it didn't rise correctly or whatever. So in the industry, that's not good enough. We have to have a good product constantly. Chefs these days don't even have to know how to produce pastry. They don't even know how to make a mashed potato.
that's very strange, isn't it?
You can buy any pastry you want, and these days you don't even have to take the eggs out of their shells. You can buy eggs without shells. You can buy sliced onions, cut pumpkins, peeled potatoes, and the list goes on and on. I've had health inspectors who have told me don't make fresh hollandaise. It's too dangerous to hold and it doesn't respond well with refrigeration. And they say from a food safety point of view, much better to buy the commercial version and be done with it. These days, the public is becoming adjusted to this kind of food. Witness the success of places like McDonald's and Hungry Jack's and many, many similar examples, Kentucky Fried and so on, who make very little of their product. They rather reassemble and heat. Cooking is a small part of their activity. So the palate of the public is becoming accustomed to commercial flavours in preference to house-produced flavours. Hygiene has become a major consideration these days, not just in food handling, but also in other ways. Believe it or not, breathing, you're all wearing masks. Hand washing, disinfecting, sanitising, attention to cleaning. In the old days, we just used to wipe down the bench with a wet cloth and maybe a little bit of detergent. Now we've got to go through a whole rigmarole every day of sanitising and disinfecting, washing our hands, cleaning our nose, make sure our clothes are clean, washing our aprons constantly, sometimes changing apron 2 or 3 times a day. We wear gloves, all sorts of things. So hygiene has risen in importance. For you guys, job security might become a concern. The industry is reduced to a crawl at the moment with COVID, and many full-time jobs are lost or changed into casual or part-time profiles. Where a chef or a manager used to have a full-time job, sometimes for a business now it is cheaper to have 2 part-time managers or 2 part-time chefs or even 3, because they get government support to encourage the taking on of new staff and extra staff. Another very important area for you guys is technology. How far do you think it will be before machines take over many of the jobs associated with hospitality? Machines can build cars, make robots, assemble rockets, fly to the moon and beyond. How long will it be for some robot or machine to learn all the recipes that ever existed and put together various types of dishes or cuisines? Machines already make biscuits by the thousands in factories. And in those factories, the people working are more likely to be technicians than cooks. After all, they need to be able to fix the equipment if it goes wrong, not change the recipe. Google can already answer any question you put to it, find any recipe you want to know, and YouTube will show you how to put it together in real time. You'll probably see Narendra making chapatis there. For front of house staff, if that's where you're going to work, you must all know how to operate a POS system and hotel booking, dedicated booking systems, which didn't even exist until fairly recently. Lots of hotel bookings are now automated and don't even need very much human interaction. Some food venues have automated delivery systems, which will only improve over time. How long will it be before a waiter is not even needed? Customer will sit themselves down, order from an iPad, the order will go straight to the kitchen and then get delivered by a robot direct to the table. This robot, by the way, will never get sick, never get grumpy, never be late to work, and will never have to have their clothing attire corrected. It's hard to imagine what the future will hold, but we can be certain the change is inevitable, but hopefully slow enough for us to change with it as well.
But I believe the robot cannot replace the human person, because we have a emotion, we have got a smile, and we always have a personal touch with our service. So that's so only for the limited time they may take over, but in the long run, so we are we always be in the business. Okay. So we got one more student arrive, and again, so come, stand here. Come here. So his name is Dawood. So Dawood is a very good chef.
Very good.
So Dawood is very good chef, and he has worked in the Japanese, and he come from Indonesia.
Oh, from Indonesia. Whereabouts in Indonesia do you come from?
Jakarta, sir.
Jakarta?
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Oh, handsome as well.
So he has done very good, like a study in the certificate 3, 4 diploma. Now he is studying the advanced diploma.
Okay, look out. Here he comes.
Waiting for a few more to come. So hopefully they will come. So Dawood is very good. So he's producing the best like a Japanese food. So can you speak something regarding the Japanese food? What you prepared in your kitchen?
Yeah. Regarding the Japanese food,
Yeah.
I work since I work start from the opening and the closing. So when we do opening, we do like all the preparation, like all the Japanese herbs, and let's say like zucchini and many else like Japanese tofu, and we boil curry, and then we boil soba, we boil all the noodles, the Japanese noodles, and then we prepare and we boil all the beef, and we prepare all thing all together, and then we put it after finish put it on the Maid Mary. So when the restaurant start at 11, it's really easy for us at the assemble team. Let's say like when order come, it just take like 15 seconds to order to serve to the customer. So it's fast.
So lots of media plus, and they
Yeah.
all ready. So when the order comes, the customer service is
Yeah,
ready.
and customer really
So
happy.
they don't have to wait.
Yeah.
It is like a very similar like a fast food. So
Yeah.
we have to compete with the fast food.
Yeah.
And again, because in the lunch time, we got only half an hour.
Yes.
So 10 minutes for going and coming from your work, and the 10 minutes for eating, and then, so quick service is always good in the lunch time,
Yeah.
and especially in the Melbourne CBD. So your boss says time is money, so be on time all the time.
And if we can catch it with the pace, they will not hire.
This is good. So what customer want, we have to give them.
Yeah.
So that is the hospitality.
Okay, very good. So do you work on a teppanyaki type grill?
Sorry?
Do you work with teppanyaki?
With teppanyaki? Oh yeah, but just for tofu and chicken.
Okay,
And most of them we boil.
okay,
Just for the chicken and the tofu, we do the teppanyaki, and the other boil and also deep fry.
okay, very good. Okay. Well, we were just talking about the changes that technology might bring to our industry, but it sounds like technology already catching up with you a little bit.
Yeah.
So he's going to ask you one question, sir. And now,
Yeah.
can you read the question?
Yes, sir. Good morning. I'm inspired by your achievement. You have very sound all-round experience about the hospital industry. Today, I would like to ask you in hospitality career, where one should start their career. I mean, kitchen or restaurant, and what are advantage of both sides? Which department is better reached to the peak of the career? So start from a small restaurant or kitchen, or maybe like hotel, if we have any experience.
Okay. As a general rule, I would think it is better to start on the food side of the business rather than the service side of the business, because there is a certain skill required, a set of skills required in food preparation and cooking, and as you proceed through the years in the business, you acquire more and more knowledge, more and more experience, and so on. On the service side, there is also a certain set of skills you require, and there are a certain set of skills that you absorb as you go on, but it's a different level. Some people who are of good capacity will go on to become management and things like that in the, especially on the service side. On the food preparation side, people will rise, so to speak, through the ranks of cooking as starting off as a chef commis or something like that, chef de partie or whatever, become a head chef, become an executive chef, and work their way through various kinds of businesses. In my case, I started with small businesses and worked my way up into bigger businesses. And I think in general, that is a very common way for people to proceed through the industry. But yeah, go ahead.
So I have another question, sir. So is it better, because you said you start from small business, so is it better if we have a better skill, let's say the skill career into head chef in a hotel, or whether we if we have knowledge, we build a start from small business. So let's say, like for me, when I do until the sous chef, and then I commit like doing small business, or I just following the track into head chef. Which one do you, I mean, based on your experience, sir?
Well, in my life, I believe it's better to go to smaller establishment first, because you get a very wide range of experiences. If you walk straight into a 5-star hotel as a chef, you are put immediately in a certain area, and it takes a long time for you to progress through different area. In a smaller type business, you are quickly inserted into all kinds and manner of issues and problems. In a small business, you have to concern yourself with all aspects of the food preparation. Probably you will be in charge of that kitchen. You will need to consider yourself with food cost and wastage, things like that. Whereas in a big 5-star, you have very little exposure to those issues. Somebody else will be looking at those things. So from that point of view, I like to see people move through the range of businesses rather than just jump in straight at the top. My experience, I've had little success with chefs who are 5-star trained and who remain in a 5-star restaurant. Usually they can't do anything unless they've got a team of people beside them or an army behind them in order to achieve success. Whereas a chef who's come up from a small business will know how to do everything. He knows how to prioritise his time, and he knows how to produce all the aspects of the food required by the establishment. So I guess to a certain extent it depends on what you want to do, but that's my experience.
Thank you, sir.
That's very good, sir. Very nice. It's really good. So we learned something. So always the food is always like a go around with the hospitality industry. So we can say food production is the backbone of the industry, hospitality industry. So when the customer comes, they stay with us, they require a food.
Yeah.
When you want to having any events, they require a food and beverage. So the food always, so it's better to learn the food first and then you move on to your career further.
Exactly, yes.
So our Suresh has one more question for you, sir.
Sir, our sir Narendra has talked a lot about and mentioned you had a restaurants business in Bali, Indonesia. While doing your business there, what challenges would you have to face when you compare to the hospitality industry? Please share your experience with us.
I can't quite understand the question. Now, I think the face mask.
When you had a restaurant in the Bali,
Yeah.
and what kind of challenges you face when you compare with the Australian industry? So
Okay.
in industry we have got a different setup, and could be language barrier, could be culture barrier, can be lots of barrier, and also the legislative.
Okay.
Share your experience with us, sir.
I can tell you some funny story about our restaurant in Bali, Indonesia. Of course, it's a language problem, but I personally was lucky because I have Indonesian wife, so she is doing all the talking, and I'm not saying very much at all. But in our restaurant, we make a small restaurant, and we set it up, according to my opinion, we set it up a little bit in Australian appearance and Australian standard. So we have proper chairs and tables, we have everything refrigerated, we have aircon and things like that. But now you talk about culture. When the chef in Bali goes to work, sometimes the chef is not wearing any shoes.
Sleepers.
So I'm like, what? What's going? And sometimes they don't. They seem to work on their own time.
Yeah.
So in Australia we go quick, 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 fast, fast, hurry up. But in Bali it's all balloon, balloon, not yet, not yet. You know, take your time, take it. What's the hurry? They didn't seem to understand very much about hurry up. Yeah, so that was pretty funny. And but most of the guys in Bali, they could actually cook their own food quite well. And that's what we were serving. We were serving Balinese food. Our restaurant was called Bali Kitchen. And it was actually aimed at tourists, but we were in Jimbaran, so we were in a tourist area, but most of the people around us were local Indonesian people. And the local Indonesian people were very suspicious of us because we looked like an international type restaurant, and we didn't really mean to portray that. So we had a lot of trouble to get the local people to come in. But so we survive on tourist bus and things like that. especially Australian tourists and other Germany or whatever, people would come to our establishment. But yeah, we had funny things there. The toilet was different. That was a big shock. Yeah. And again, lots of the local chef didn't understand how to make a hamburger or, you know, little things like that. But we teach them. I was also in China for 6 months. I went to China to help a friend of mine open a fairly large restaurant, 250-seat restaurant in the north of China, up near the Mongolian border. And that was funny as well, because they don't use very much potato in that area of China at all. So we had to teach them what is a potato, what is a mashed potato. They had a lot of struggle to learn what is mashed potato. And then they had some very, very strange ways of training their staff. Every day, let's say 10 o'clock in the morning, they would line up all their staff. They had about 50 staff working there altogether. And they'd make them march up and down the corridors of this place like an army drill. And I said to somebody, what the hell are they doing? And he said, well, we want them to learn how to stand up straight and blah, 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 and look like they're really here to mean business. So I was talking to my friend, I said, geez, you'd never get away with that in Australia. Australian guys would never line up like that and march up and down the corridor like in the army. Excuse me. So yeah, that was very interesting as well.
It was really good, sir. Very good. Very, very nice.
Thank you, sir. I have another question, sir.
Certainly.
Yeah, regarding about your business in Bali, because I'm Indonesian and I know about the culture. May I know how you deal or manage with the food price? Because we know that Indonesian with the salary, so labor cost is cheap and food cost is cheap, but they have the culture like paying food is price. So how you deal with all the things, sir?
Well, it's the same as anywhere. You have to work out how much things will cost you to produce, and you have to work out how much it costs you to purchase those things as raw materials, I mean. Because in Bali we make everything fresh product. We go to the local market and so on. But at the end of the day, it's the same kind of calculation. How much it's costing me? How much can I sell it for? In Bali, it's very tricky because everybody in Bali expects things to be cheap.
Yeah, that's the point.
And coming from my background in Australia, I have a different attitude and a different expectation. So constantly I have to revise, in my mind, I have to constantly revise my expectation and my opinion of what I'm doing. I remember we sold beer in that place, and the can of beer used to cost me, I think from memory, about 80 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
And we would sell it for about $2. Now in Australia, to buy a beer for $2 is very cheap. But in Bali, to sell a beer for $2 was very expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
And I remember one tourist came in, he said, how can you charge so much for a beer? What? It's not much, it's $2. And he said, I can go to the local supermarket and buy one for 80 cents. So I said, yeah, okay, well go ahead. It won't be cold, it'll be a hot one for starters.
No.
You won't get it served in a glass, and you won't be sitting in aircon. So you still want to argue about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
you pay for the atmosphere,
service, yeah.
you pay for the service.
exactly.
So everything count in the like a food cost.
Yeah.
Then that's why we make a price.
Yeah. So there's expectations on all sides when people don't fully understand the costs that the establishment has to go to. And let's not forget that when you sell anything, you have to have that product sitting in your fridge. If it's a can of beer or it's an onion or a potato or a carrot, we have to buy all these things in expectation that somebody will buy them.
That's correct.
So we don't buy them just to decorate our fridge or because we like to buy a carrot. We buy those things because we're expecting that somebody will come in and purchase from us those raw materials that we have bought. So we buy the raw material, the chef like yourself comes in and puts his quality on top of that, and then the service staff puts their quality on top of that, and then the venue itself puts its quality, whatever that might be. In our case, aircon, nice table and chair, blah, blah. So the combination of all those things is what you're selling. You're not just selling the food, you're certainly not selling the carrot, and you're not selling the waitress for 10 minutes to serve you. It's a combined effort from everybody. And that's the very important thing to understand. You even have to buy the plate. You know, if somebody wants to eat their food, you have to give them on a plate. That plate costs somebody money.
That's correct. So one more question. So in your restaurant, so what percentage was the local people compared to the international tourists?
Ours was, we have only about 25%, about a quarter of our people were local. They were scared of us.
Okay.
Because they felt the price was a bit high and so forth. So we got the more affluent Indonesian people. Most of our people were tourist people. And they came from all over the world. But I have to say, lots of Aussies in there.
Oh yeah, because Bali is a very one of the popular destination for the Aussie people.
That's right.
Yeah, if anybody want to get married, where you want to get married, so let's go to the Bali. And because the weather and also it's close by. So I think, from the Western Australia you can reach in 45 minutes.
That's right.
Yes, it's pretty close by.
Very close.
45 minutes from South Australia.
Pardon?
Only 45 minutes from South Australia.
Western Australia.
Yeah, on the flight.
On the flight. Very close.
And my last question from me, sir. You mentioned about the customer, let's say like stubborn customer or difficult customer. So can you explain more about it, how you deal with that kind of customer? Or let's say when your staff asking about the order and the customer just keep saying that, oh, it's too expensive. And how you deal with that, I mean, with the gentle manner you teach the staff. Thank you.
Well, we try to have the attitude that the customer is the most important thing. The customer is the person who's paying your wage at the end of the day, because the person who owns the restaurant relies on the money from the customer to give to you, and also, of course, to give to himself a little bit or a lot, depending on the place. But so the customer has to be handled very carefully. I always think that you have to take each case on its merits. If the customer is really rude, then I think you can say goodbye to good manners. But if the customer is reasonable, then you have to be reasonable, very reasonable. I used to have a tactic or a strategy. For example, if a customer complained about something, let's say my steak is overcooked or something like that, I would discuss with them how they like it, blah, blah, blah. And then I would say, I'm very happy that you complain, because now I know you care, and I already care, and now I know you care. So we both care about the same thing. So that being the case, what can I now do to make you happy? Would you like you want me to replace the meal, or you want me to replace the part of the meal, or would you prefer to have, I'll give you a glass of beer or a glass of wine or free dessert or whatever. But there have been occasions, if the customer has been quite rude to me, then I will be rude also. Yeah. That's the truth. Yeah. I would love to tell you always you have to be sweet, but sometimes, every now and again, you can't, and you have to be brutal. And so you have to remember too that some customer is almost like a professional complainer. And if you get that feeling, you have to be able to identify and then to be fairly short and try to eliminate that person. I notice Gordon Ramsay will tell them to get out of my restaurant, get out of here. We try not to, that's a bit extreme. We try not to do that, but it does happen occasionally.
So we got one more trainer. He's a Sajal. Sajal is a very experienced chef, and he's come from Bangladesh.
Oh, okay.
So he's with us for just a couple of months ago. We started with him, and he's looking after all the certificate 3, certificate 4, and all the kitchen work. And please come. And we got one more. Come. And he's a Dan. Here, Dan, come here. He can't see you.
I'll participate.
Yeah. So,
Oh, crikey.
and he's again our teacher. So Dan look after that. He's one of the oldest teacher in this Glen Institute.
Okay.
Lot of experience working in the tech and now looking after our hospitality whole program, right from the certificate 3, 4, diploma, advanced diploma, everything he does. He is a master of all the trades. So please, okay.
Very good.
Hi.
Welcome.
I think Narendra is exaggerating a little, but yeah, very nice to meet you.
I don't hear accent here.
Accent? What kind of accent?
I don't hear an accent. Everybody else has accent.
You don't hear an accent. Is that because
Are you Australian?
I might be? Perhaps. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay. Okay, well, we're almost finished, but I just want to make a little side note here, and I want to talk about the importance of the front of house and service staff, because most of my discussion today has been around chefs and cooking, so maybe some of you are getting a bit bored with that. But I just want you to know that this area, front of house and service, is critical, and many businesses have failed when they haven't been aware of the importance of front of house and service. I would even go so far as to say that a food venue, whatever it might be, will either, even a hotel, will make it or break it on the strength of their front of house staff. You know yourself when you enter a hotel, restaurant, or even a cafe, you know how important the vibe is that the front of house give off. So that's something I can't stress too much for those of you, or are there any of you actually aiming at front of house service in this group? Or everybody is on food production? What is the case there, Narendra? Hello, I've lost Narendra. He's disappeared. Have we still got sound? Hello? Something's happened.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Oh, you'll come back.
Okay.
Hello. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you.
How have you starting your career in the hospitality? What will be your advice to use special those who want to starting their own business in the future? How one can we start special in the hospitality business?
So what she's asking, like you have started your business, so can you advise the new people to start their own business and how to go about it?
Okay. Okay, the first bit of advice, if you want to start your own business, you have to ask yourself some very serious questions. Why do I want to do this? Do I have the skill to do it? Do I have the knowledge to do it?
Yeah.
Do I have the money to do it? All these things are very important. If you want to start a business, you have to be a teacher, a psychologist, a business woman in your case. You have to have a little bit of knowledge of some basic accounting skills. You need to be able to work out your profit and loss. On a more basic level, you have to work out the cost of production, even on a by plate or even sometimes by ingredient. Most of the big places will have a certain paperwork that will describe every ingredient that goes into making a dish, even down to salt and pepper. And they will ask you to calculate how much of these ingredients you are going to use by weight, and then they will come back later on and analyse how much each individual item cost. And then you add up all that, and that gives you the total price per plate of your product. So being able to do that is critical to having an ongoing business. You have to know how much your products cost you in order to work out how much you can charge your customer. And then of course later on you have to compare the two and make sure that you've got enough margin, as we call it, to be able to cover your bills plus your costs, any energy bills, lease, rent, mortgage payments, whatever it is that you might have, which all go into these things. When I say you need enough money, a lot of people go into the restaurant industry undercapitalised, which means they don't have enough money, but they're hoping for some quick revenue turnover to keep them afloat. And in hospitality, sometimes that happens, but many times it does not happen. So you have to have money in reserve. You need the money, whatever it takes to buy the business and whatever it takes to set up the business in total, then plus all of that money, you need to have some money as a reserve in the background in case things don't go quite the way you expect. It's quite normal for a restaurant business to take some time to develop itself and for your customers to experience what you're offering. And that will be the way that you get your repeat business, and then slowly your business will start to grow. But it's very dangerous territory to open a business and expect that business to be working perfectly from day one. That doesn't usually happen.
Very good, sir. Very good, sir. So to start a business, one has to know everything about the hospitality, like a cooking, service, beverage, how to serve the alcohol, and plus the accounting part, so like an administration part. So person has to be a jack of all the department. So they should know, then he should be able to run the good business. And of course, we should need a good business planning. To know how the revenue is going to, how much revenue is going to earn. So according to that, you have to develop your expenditure. Yeah. So that way, how we learn the successful business. So we're very good, sir. So we learned a lot from you, and thanks for giving your time. So from our gratitude from our side, we like to present you a small token, like a certificate from our institute, and I'm going to send you in the email. And when I see you personally, then I hand over to you.
Okay.
And when you are in Melbourne, please visit us. So we are not very far from all the like a main station, like a Melbourne Central, Flinders Street, or Southern Cross. We are only 10 minutes walking distance.
Lovely.
Visit us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
See you.
Thank you all. Very good, boys and girls.
Bye.
See you later. Best of luck in the industry.
Thank you.